Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. When a king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeons, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravak, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. Purport. This verse reveals the absolute nature of Vaikuntha. There is no difference between the birds there and the human residents. The situation in the spiritual sky is that everything is spiritual and variegated. Spiritual variegatedness means that everything is animate. There is nothing inanimate. Even the trees, the ground, the plants, the flowers, the birds, and the beasts are all on the level of Krishna consciousness. The special feature of Vaikuntha Loka is that there is no question of sense gratification. In a mature world, even an ass enjoys his sound vibration. But in the Vaikuntha, such nice birds as the peacock, the chakravaka, and the cuckoos prefer to hear the vibration of the glories of the Lord from the bees. The principles of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, are very prominent in the Vaikuntha world. Om Ajnanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Mayam Dadati Svapadantikam Jayasi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Giradhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripadamaham vande Sri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyeshwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So here, the continuation of the description of the kingdom of God, or Vaikuntha, is going on. Lord Brahma is giving us a vision, a darshan of the spiritual world, because the spiritual world has been revealed to him in his heart. Tene Brahma Hridaya Kavaye. And today he is speaking about the king of bees, which is humming in a high pitch. What is he humming about? He's singing the glories of the Lord. In the Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, in the 47th chapter, we have the Song of the Bee, where the gopis are in separation from Krishna, so they're imagining, but their imagination is a reality. It's not just other people's imaginations, because it's in relationship with Krishna. So they are visualizing the discourse or the discussion goes on between the gopis or Srimati Radharani and the bee, and the bee is coming and seemingly disturbing or annoying Srimati Radharani, and she says, "Oh, unfaithful servant of an unfaithful master. Don't try your luck with me. Don't try to woe me." You know, woeing, like trying to get on my good side, because I'm not going to buy into your advances. I know that you're simply the messenger of Krishna, and he cannot be trusted. Why can he not be trusted? Because he is simply falling for all these other girls, all these other parties that we do not talk about. And then the bee disappears, and of course she becomes anxious. Oh, what if I said something? And now the bee will go to Krishna and will communicate that to Krishna. Krishna will be very upset to hear all of this. So she feels very anxious. But then the bee comes back, and now she has a different mood. She's like, "Oh, Very nice, you came back, wonderful. Any news from Krishna? and so the discussion goes on. And the bee is a messenger. It is simply there to expand the glories of Krishna and to expand the conversation between Srimati Radharani and Krishna. So in a similar way here, the bees are humming in high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord. And while this is going on, all the other birds, there's a temporary lull in their noise. Lull means it becomes kind of quiet, kind of calm, a lullaby. It's soothing, you can kind of fall asleep. Normally the other birds are quite loud. Who are these other birds? Pigeon, cuckoo, crane, chakravaka, swan, parrot, and partridge, and peacock. They're quite dominant, they're quite loud in comparison to the bee. Yet, when they hear the glories of the Lord, they become quiet because they want to hear, okay, let's hear Krishna Katha. Let's hear about what the bees are communicating to us. In this world, there's so much noise. Have you noticed? So much noise going on? No? Constant noise. Noise in the head, noise in the ether, noise in the media. Everyone is busy having discussions from the morning to the night. But what are these discussions about? Shrotavyadini rajendra nina santi sahasrasha apashyatamatmatatva griheshu grihamedinam. Everything is concerning the house, the body, the children, the job, the money. How much is rice? How much is the dollar? How much to get green card? How long it takes? What benefit we'll get in Denmark? No, Norway is better. Let's go to Norway. Oh no, Switzerland. Okay, US is out right now. We can't go there. It's too difficult at the moment. Everybody talking about what? The body and the expansions of the body. Nobody's talking about Krishna. But in the spiritual world, everyone is absorbed in Krishna Katha. Shrinvatasva Katha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantakstohya Badrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. So this Krishna Katha is ongoing. It is continuous. There is no cessation. There is no interruption. It's always expanding. And this is being pointed out in the purport by Srila Prabhupada that in the spiritual world, everyone is simply engaged in devotional service because everything and everyone is animate. Not just the animals, not just the humans, but also the trees, the plants. Everyone is a devotee of Krishna. And they're all serving Krishna in their own capacity. And they're all appreciating each other. Like here we see these birds, like peacocks, are certainly, more significant, you could say, than a bee, right? But they're respecting, they're appreciating, and giving favor to the bee because the bee is chanting the glories of Krishna. So we can see that there is no envy in the spiritual world. Yes, there is competition, but that competition is to enhance the rasa, the flavor of the devotional offering for Krishna's pleasure. Just like in cooking, yes, there are different flavors that are sometimes competing, but an expert cook knows how to balance them in order to make a pleasing offering to Krishna. So, here, so the variegatedness is very important. It's not stereotype. Everything is animate, which means everything is conscious, everything is alive. And there is a lot of variegatedness. Sometimes people think that spiritual world means no variety, just the white light. Have you met people who said, yeah, I meditate on a candle, or you met people like that? All the time, right? How long can you meditate on a candle? Anyone tried here? No? Meditate on nothing? How long can you meditate on nothing? Meditating on nothing is something, so basically it doesn't work. Yet people fall for this because they're lacking a higher information, higher knowledge, which is coming from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in a spiritual world, there is no sense gratification, no question of sense gratification. Now, some people may say, what is this? I want sense gratification. What it means is that there is no material sense gratification. There is no selfishness. But there is certainly enjoyment, but that enjoyment is of a different variety, is of a different quality. Just like iron and gold, certainly they're both metals, but they're of a different quality. One is a base metal and can get rusty, and the other one, gold, it's very precious, it's very valuable, very shiny and refined. So in a similar way, mundane material sense gratification is of a base quality. What is the criteria that it is of an inferior nature? It's temporary. It has a very short shelf life. You see people, they start eating something, no, I don't want this anymore. And they start doing something, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Have you noticed? You can't do anything in a mature world for long. Even the glorious activities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, very limited, especially in the human form of life. But in the spiritual world, all these activities in relationship with Krishna, they're going on continuously in unlimited variety and in unlimited forms of enjoyment, but they are in relationship to Krishna, and thus they are anandam buddhi vardhanam, ever increasing. In the material world, everything is decreasing. Have you noticed? You've been to a restaurant, you think, yeah, okay, it was all right. And the next time you go there, oh, it's terrible. Have you had experience? No, you don't go to restaurants. You're devotees. But sometimes just that anticipation ruins it, because we have great expectations and they're never met. Why? Because the material experience is static. It's very limited. But in the spiritual world, everything is ever increasing. Why? Because Krishna, he's always fresh. He's all attractive. His qualities are always expanding. Thus, Krishna is even attracted to himself. We know this, that Krishna, at different times, he sees his own image in a pillar or on a marble floor, and he's attracted. He feels, wow, how amazing. Now, you may say, of course, he knows it's Krishna, but the Lila Shakti, there are different potencies of Krishna that are enhancing that rasa. Just like when the Kaura boys and the calves were walking into the mouth of Agasura. How can Krishna be puzzled? How can Krishna become confused? Or when Lord Brahma steals the calves and the Kaura boys, how can Krishna be confused? He's omniscient, right? He knows before Brahma even thinks about this. So how can Krishna become bewildered? Any idea? Why? Because it's fun, yes. Because unless there is moha, unless there is bewilderment, there's no fun. If you already know everything, there's no more fun. Oh, okay, now this is going to happen, that is going to happen, that is going to happen, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do that. Like at one point in the Bhagavatam, who is it? Narada Muni somebody comes and says, you're going to do this, even things in the future that are going to yet to happen, right? But it doesn't take away the fun. Why? Because it's ever fresh. And Krishna has unlimited varieties in how he manifests his pastimes. Just like my friend Lalitana Prabhu was mentioning this morning. Sometimes Lord Varahadev, he kills Hiranyaksha by slapping him up the head with one of his hooves. And other times, what are other ways how he kills him? With the tusk. Sometimes he gores him with the tusk. So now somebody may say, I found a mistake. No, I read in this Purana. I heard in this scripture. No, we're going by the Bhagavatam. We're going by Prabhupada. That is our sampradaya. That is our line that we are following. And to question Prabhupada or to challenge him or to challenge our acharyas and say, no, that's been a mistake. That is mundane understanding. Achintya kaluye bhava tangstarkena nayojayet. All seeming contradictions become reconciled in the inconceivable nature of the Supreme. Can Varahadev simultaneously kill him by slapping him up the head with his hoof and piercing him with his tusk? Can he do that? Certainly he can. Oh yes, certainly he can. Of course, sometimes the acharyas explain that in different yugas, he does the pastime slightly different because he likes variety. Just like sometimes Krishna goes to Mathura while riding on the chariot of Akrura. Sometimes he goes there riding on Kaliya. That must be great fun, right? Riding on a big serpent, going to Mathura. So Krishna, he likes variety. Otherwise, why so much variety in this world? Why so many different flowers, so many different birds? We hear here about so many different birds. Why not just one bird? Wouldn't that be enough? No, there has to be variety because enjoyment means variety. And Krishna is the source of all variety and of all enjoyment. So this whole idea of everything has to become one and everything becomes plain and boring is really a mundane conception. So it has been refuted here in the pages of the Bhagavatam. In a mature world, even an ass enjoys his sound vibration. I remember going to boarding school, we had a family of asses there that we were taking care of. And the asses, they like to bray. Have you ever heard the braying of an ass? But when they're in heat, when they get excited, they really get loud, really loud. And it's obnoxious. It's really terrible. I'm not going to even try to duplicate it. So, yet the asses think, what a wonderful song. What poetry. What beauty. What exquisite nature. Everyone else is horrified, but the asses think this is the most beautiful song ever sung in creation. So, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But in the Vaikunthas, such nice birds as peacocks, chakravakas, and cuckoos, who all have amazing voices, amazing sounds, they prefer to hear the vibration of the glories of the Lord from the bees, the humble bees, the little bee. That's seemingly insignificant comparing to a peacock or to a cuckoo or to a swan. So the principle of devotional service begins with hearing. Hearing is the first principle. Hearing and chanting. And that is very prominent in the Vaikuntha world. So the more we engage in hearing and chanting, the more we are in Vaikuntha, the more we are in the spiritual world. What is our bhajan? What is our bhajan? Now we're concerned with our bhojan, we're concerned with our eating, but how much are we concerned with our hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord? So that can always be expanded. And we saw in the example of Srila Prabhupada how his hearing and his chanting was very strong. And because of that, his impact in expanding the Krishna consciousness movement is still being felt, and it is still expanding nowadays. Even though some people may say, oh no, he left the world in 1977. No, but that is just the physical aspect. The physical Vapu has disappeared from this planet. But Divani, the instructions and his teachings, they're still expanding all over the globe. We just came from Korsnesgard. BBT there is producing over 100 titles every year of Srila Prabhupada's books in different languages. Amazing, amazing how the kirtan, the hearing and chanting is expanding. We saw the new Bhagavad Gita in Mongolian. Can you speak Mongolian? Yeah? Mongolian. You know Mongolia? Yeah? You can read? You can understand? You understand Mongolian? Where are you from? Nepal. Okay. Yeah. So now we have Bhagavad Gita in Mongolian. Big, big Bhagavad Gita, 1,100 pages. Massive book. What an achievement. Srila Prabhupada said that whenever a new book comes out, I feel like I've conquered an empire. Imagine Genghis Khan can read Bhagavad Gita. That would be something, right? That is an achievement. So Srila Prabhupada labored very hard. He had this plan because he got this mission from his Gurudev that he should spread Krishna consciousness in the English language. Yet he spent a lifetime in preparation, 43 years from the time when he got this instruction to when he boarded Jaladuta. 43 years. That's a lifetime in preparation. They asked Prabhupada, why didn't you come earlier? And he said, I had to prepare myself. He just was married, had one son, was in business, so he fulfilled his duties. But continuously he was hearing and chanting, studying the Bhagavatam, translating the Bhagavatam. And then when he had the first canto printed, then he ventured out for the West. But it was not easy. It was not easy because he had no money, no connections, no means to go there. But one time when he was, I heard in Agra at some program, somebody says it was some people from Mathura who lived there, some businessman, a Mr. Agarwal. The Mr. Agarwal mentioned that I have a son. He lives in US, in Pennsylvania, and he was very upset. He said he went there to study engineering, and then some white woman captured him. And he did not come back. And Mr. Agarwal was very upset about that because his son went missing. But Prabhupada said, oh, your son lives in America? Can you ask him to send an invitation, sponsorship letter for me so I can go there to visit America? And he didn't think much about it. 3-4 months later, in Chippiwada in Delhi, in Prabhupada's office, he had a little tiny room in one temple in Delhi. He had in his letterbox, he had a notice of a sponsorship letter. Sponsorship letter from a Mr. Gopal Agarwal from Butler, Pennsylvania, from the Indian Embassy in New York that would allow him, he sponsored him for 3 months for his stay, for taking care of his expenses while he's in America. So he had that sponsorship letter. Then with that, he went to Delhi. He got his passport. That was not so difficult. One time I had to get a passport for an Indian person. It was quite difficult. Not so difficult for Indian circumstances means for the West quite difficult. Here it's like you just fill out a form and, pay some money and you get your passport. But there, not so easy. You ever been to Writers Building, to the central administration? It's like a beehive. It's like till you find the right office, the right person, then they send you here and there and everywhere to get other papers. And they say, no, we can't do this now. No, this doesn't work. This is not right, etc. Come back next week. Oh, I'm in Mayapur. Oh, too bad. Okay. Drive back there. Come back there. So he got the passport, but then he needed the P form, right? The non-objection certificate from the federal, from the state bank, to say that he doesn't have any debts, no outstanding debts. And he needed the passage. So he was in touch. Srimati Murarji from Scindia Steamship Company, that pious lady, she had sponsored one of the volumes of Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. So he asked her for a free passage on one of her cargo ships. But she refused. She refused several times because he was old. He was almost 70 years old. He was in frail health. And she said, you will go there and you will die there. And people will blame me. And it's not good. You should just stay in Vrindavan. Just do your bhajan and everything will be fine. Rua said, no. I need to go to America. So he went, he talked to the secretary to plead his case. And he waited outside of her door's office. Whole day he was there. So she sent out water, fruits. He didn't accept it. That's the style, And ultimately she saw him and she relented. She gave him passage on one of her steamships, the Jaladuta. Then he needed that P form, that no objection certificate from State Bank in order to be allowed to leave the country. So, and the clerk, he didn't want to give it, but he said, I want to speak to your supervisor. So he went to the supervisor and finally he got that. And then he boarded. Today, how many years ago? 1965? Yeah. 60 years ago. 60 years ago, he left for the US. And it wasn't like a big event in the sense of that they went around to different newspapers in Calcutta, but nobody was interested in some Swami going to America. Some Bengali newspaper put something small there, somewhere. His son Vrindavan was there. He gave him 40 rupees. And a couple of people were there to see him off. Prabhupada just had his chadar, a couple of clothes. Mr. Joshi, he bought him a few warm things because he knew it's going to get cold in the US. He had a little bag of cereal, small pair of cartels, and the Bhagavatam. His books got loaded in Cochin, I believe. They started the voyage. He went to Calcutta, went to Mayapur to take darshan of the samadhi of his Gurudev, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then he left from Calcutta and went all around India, stopped in Ceylon, now Lanka, Colombo, and came up the other side. And in Cochin, they loaded the books and then voyaged for America. Almost 40 days, suffering 2 heart attacks. And luckily, there was a cabin. There was a proper cabin for a passenger. And Srimati Murarji told the captain, Mr. Pandey, that he should stock more fruits and vegetables for the Swami. So Prabhupada could cook. Yet because he was of poor health, he got seasick. For many, many days, he could not eat. You can read his diary, the Jaladuta diary. And there was storms, there was so many difficulties, yet the crossing of the Atlantic was very smooth. Because Prabhupada had this dream that Krishna came and he was rowing that boat and he was making everything very smooth and very pleasant for his voyage. And he said, if a third heart attack would have come, I would have died. It would have been the end of it. So finally he reached Boston Harbor. And there he saw one Coast Guard in a boat, little boat rowing. He came on a steamship, and that was not a rowboat, but a small boat. And Prabhupada was on the board of the Jaladuta. He was waving, and that Coast Guard, he became a devotee 4 years later. Chavana Swami took sannyas later on. That's the first person Prabhupada laid his eyes on. Bhakti Shakti, empowerment. So that is the potency of the Krishna consciousness movement. Then he came to New York and didn't know whether to turn left or right. Nobody was impressed. So many people get off the boat every day. So many immigrants, so many people from the whole world. An old man. So he just was put on a bus to Pennsylvania, and he stayed there for several weeks with Sally and Gopal Agarwal in Butler, a very small town in Pennsylvania. Even the people in Pennsylvania don't know where Butler is. It's a little place. But Sally was very eager to organize programs for Prabhupada. She organized programs, different speaking engagements. And he was very happy to do all of that. He stayed at the YMCA, which is like a youth hostel. But there was no facility for bathing. So he had to walk several blocks to the house of the Agarwals to take shower there and to cook there. Because the Agarwals had 2 boys, so they didn't have room for him to stay in their house. So he had to stay at the YMCA. And so Prabhupada, he tolerated all of that because he had this mission to spread Krishna consciousness. And he wrote a letter to one of his friends in India that today I'm going to see classical Indian dance. Now, he's a Swami, he's got no interest in seeing Indian dance. He said, I haven't seen this in decades, but I'm interested for 2 reasons. I want to see how are the American people receiving our culture, this Indian culture, and how do they interact? What are the social customs? How do they entertain guests? How do they serve food and drink? Because it's a different ball game. So Prabhupada was willing to learn, coming from Vrindavan, coming from the spiritual world. Prabhupada was willing to learn. Are we willing to learn? Well, sometimes I doubt it. If we just question something or ask somebody, well, could this be done differently? Could that be done differently? Could we have a different invitation card? No. No. We have to do everything the same for the next 10,000 years. That means we don't understand. Prapanchikatika buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshubi parityago vairagyam falgu katyate. Anasakta savishayan yataram upayunjita nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchate. Prabhupada gave us principles. He expected us to adjust the details according to time, place, and circumstance. Yes, there was a time where hippie posters were popular. 2025 is not that time, unless you're into retro and into nostalgia. The time of big flyers is out. It's out because people can't carry them. They can't put them anywhere. It's little cards. Something memorable, something odd, different sizes, different shapes. So we should go with the times to present the eternal message of Krishna consciousness. Just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote over 100 books, poems, and songs. Most of the songs we're singing are from Bhaktivinoda. So, and some of these songs, he composed them in popular tunes and lyrics, like the bowels. Have you heard of the bowels? Not the bowels, but the bowels. Yeah. There's some Sahaja group, but they were very popular in Bengal. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote some devotional songs and he signed it as Bowel, Das Bowel. Huh? So he gave himself a pseudonym to be appealing to those type of people. What a genius, huh? He wrote stories like Jaiva Dharma, where he creates fictional characters and expands the Bhagavad philosophy in those characters and in those dialogues. He puts all the Siddhanta, all the Tattva in there, in these different characters. So it's quite amazing to see how innovative our acharyas were. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he rode in motor cars, he wore Western clothing, he did many very revolutionary things, much to the dismay, much to the discomfort of the smartas, of the traditionalists, who ganged up on him and tried to kill him. They closed the temples in Vrindavan when Bhaktisiddhanta was on parikrama. They threw rocks at them. Which shows that if you want to be innovative and if you want to expand Krishna consciousness, some people will not like you. But that doesn't mean that if some people dislike you, that you're doing great preaching. That's not what it means. And in a similar way, Srila Prabhupada, he expanded the Krishna consciousness movement because he understood what we are hearing about today, that everything is animate, there is variegatedness in the spiritual world, and Krishna likes different forms of devotees and different types of service, just like Kusumasava, who is also known as the Joker. What's the name of Krishna's friend? Madhu Mangal. He's always cracking jokes. He's always making comedy. Krishna likes that. Krishna likes that. But he has others who are very calm and quiet and compliant. Others who are very thoughtful, very wise, like Uddhava. There's so many different varieties. There are some who are very bold and rambunctious. They want to fight. They want excitement. They want to increase that virya ras. So the Bhagavatam is full of flavor. It is full of rasa. It is a rasic scripture. So we're very fortunate that we have this inside information from the Bhagavatam. So we stick with the Bhagavatam. There's so many Puranas. But as I read this morning, Narada Muni, he asked Vyasadeva, "Oh, my dear Prabhu, why are you so depressed? Could it be that you have done everything right, but you failed to glorify the intimate pastimes of the Lord? And that's why you're feeling a little lacking in your heart?" And in a purport, Srila Prabhupada writes one sentence: Vyasadeva should never have written all those Puranas. Now, of course, it's understood that there's different classes of men, different people in different modes of the material nature. And Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation. So he's trying to elevate everybody gradually. But Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost scripture. That's why we go with the Bhagavatam and we go with Prabhupada's commentaries. Questions, comments, and reflections. Jai Shishi Gaunitai Ki Jai. Yes, please. They were in crates. I believe he had stored them in New York or I think they were at the Scindia steamship office at their storage place in New York. But he had a few with him that he got to Butler because a few people got them. Yeah. 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 On a Greyhound bus. Yeah. Thank you. It depends on the motive. Just like if your motive is Krishna's pleasure, then you can be very ambitious. Publishing books, building a temple.
But initially, it seems like there must be some purification on the way there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But if we lose that, like Dhruva Maharaj, if we lose that ambition, then I don't find why I should do it.
Yeah, but sometimes ambition is for personal interest. You want revenge, you want profit, you want fame, you want distinction. And then even though you may achieve it after a hard struggle, it's still meaningless. Like Dhruva Maharaj said, I looked for broken pieces of glass. Now I'm the emperor of the pole star for 36,000 years. What a waste of my time. What a waste of my endeavor. I should have just endeavored for Krishna, for Krishna's mercy.
If you want, I want big farm for Krishna.
Why do you need a big farm for Krishna? Krishna already has all the cows. Chinta mani prakarasatma sukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabir abhipalayantam. Why not do your bhajan? Why not preach? That's enough impetus. You're an old man. You're not going to do farming. You want to do farming? Go help Lalita. It's hard work. Yeah. I worked on farms every summer for a month. You do the barn and the cows before breakfast. Then after breakfast you go out, you cut the grass, you make hay. You know how you make hay? You cut the grass, then you have to turn it around so it dries properly. And this is in the Alps. It's like this, not like this. So you can't work with machines. Most of it is done by hand. Did you ever cut grass by hand? Yeah? Yeah, after a while you feel it, right? And in the evening you just fall over dead. And the next morning, wash, rinse, and repeat. Or no wash and rinse, just repeat. The same thing all over again. It's hard work. So our ambitions have to correspond to our capacity, where we stand in life. What is our capacity? Otherwise, it becomes disproportionate and it becomes atyahara, prayasascha. Over-endeavoring. That's why there's a saying that curiosity killed the cat or the monkey. You know that monkey? He saw that wedge in a tree and he thought, what is this? And he went, and then that was the end of the monkey. And ambition killed the Swami. If you're supposed to be a spiritualist, you're supposed to be in tune with Krishna's plan. But no, you're over-ambitious. For what? So we can say we got a big farm. We have dozens of farms, but we don't have farmers. How does that work? Yeah. Exactly. It doesn't work very well because a horse doesn't push a cart. A horse pulls a cart. It doesn't push a cart. So having a farm without farmers is like having a boat without sailors. Like some people, they say, yeah, we got a boat now, but because they're miserly, they're stingy, they don't want to spend on the boatman, so they don't have a proper captain. So they think, yeah, we can do this, we can get there. And they just get shipwrecked and they lose their life and their boat. So there's certain ways of how to do things. We should not be naive. Yes, Prabhupada took risks, but they were calculated risks on behalf of Krishna. He knew, unless I do this, it's not going to happen. I have to take this risk for Krishna. But we don't need more farms without farmers. So why not go out to the rural areas and spread Krishna consciousness by Harinam Sankirtan, doing pariyatra, distributing books, distributing prasad, making friends, and then Some of these farmers, they will become Krishna conscious. They already have a farm. Why would you go and try to buy a farm? Oh, okay, now we have to collect $10 million to buy a farm. Sounds familiar, right? Then we have to spend another $5 million to build something on it. But we still don't have any people. We have a few city boys and girls that we sent there on a weekend to collect a few strawberries. It's just not good logic. But if you ask these questions, a lot of people will call you a heretic. A lot of people will call you an infidel. You're against the glorious mission. No, it's called common sense. But of course, nothing is as common as common sense. It's quite uncommon nowadays. So we have to follow Prabhupada's example. Yes, he wanted farms, but he was happy to start small. He was happy to start small and then let things organically expand. Otherwise, we go in like the plow and out like a needle. And that's what has happened many, many times. So most of these big projects, they're gone. The money's gone. The people are gone. And all that remains is the bad, sour taste in the mouth. And the thought that maybe we could have done this a little better. That's how I feel about the 80s and the 90s. Maybe we could have done this a little better. So, that's why it's so important that we actually study the Bhagavatam and we contextualize it. Contextualize it means it in context. We know, okay, not just nice shlokas, but how does this apply in my life and in our lives as a community? What do we need? What is the next step? Like here, we don't need a big temple. We don't. It's big enough. If you need a bigger place once a year, you rent a hall. Plenty of halls that you can rent, right? Or you do something outdoor. What do we need? We need more activism. We need more leaders. We need more people who are in the mood, like here, all these beautiful birds who are cooperating with the little bees. Because they see, oh yeah, this is what we're supposed to be doing, hearing and chanting about Krishna. The bees are doing it. Okay, let's hear. Let's pay attention. Yes.
This Prabhupada, he said in the beginning I didn't make any temples, but then I started to get money.
Yeah.
Then I established temples. So could one say, we can follow in his footsteps?
No, but Prabhupada didn't build temple. He bought old churches and synagogues that were for sale, and he got them cheap. That's what he did. He didn't build temples. Yeah. He mainly invested into books and into people. And when the people came and the people brought resources, same like the Goswamis, they never built temples. They were babas. They were doing their bhajan. They were chanting Hare Krishna, doing Govardhan Parikrama, studying scriptures and writing. But then followers came and people came who gave them resources. So they told them, okay, you build a temple for Thakur. You do this. Like Madhavendra Puri. He didn't build a temple, but he inspired others. Okay, if Krishna wants it, it will happen. They didn't take all their brahmacharis and send them out, to sell God knows what not. Yeah. No. So we should contextualize. We should understand our tradition. Otherwise, again, atyahara, prayasascha, too much collecting and over-endeavoring will diminish our bhakti, our devotion. So Prabhupada was happy to start small. He had a big mission, he had a big vision, but he was happy to go along with Krishna's plan. He struggled, he persevered, a lot of setbacks, a lot of difficulties, a lot of diversions, but ultimately he came out glorious, very, 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 very successful. He started with 40 rupees. Now there's over 1,000 centers. Tell me one business that started like that. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. Because Prabhupada said, I didn't go to the West. The Bhagavatam went to the West. I was just carrying the books. He's always giving credit to his Gurudev, always giving credit to Krishna. Never, I did this, I did that, I did that. Never self-promoting. So that is the mood, that is the attitude of our parampara. If we are in that mood, and we even appreciate the bees, the little bees, who are doing seemingly, what do bees do? Yeah, well, what do the bees do, you know? But you know, in many places, like in China, they have huge problem. Why? Because no more bees. Why is there no more bees? Too much pollution, too much toxicity in the environment. So the bees are very sensitive. They're very sensitive, and they can just get wiped out by that. If you don't have bees, what's the problem? No more fruits, no more vegetables, no more flowers. Who's going to pollinate? You have to send people out to manually pollinate. You ever tried to do that? Good luck. That's what's happening. Yes, you can grow your frankenfood in your laboratory from all kinds of substances, but it will not really be offerable or pleasing. So we have to understand how nature works and work with Krishna's plan and be happy to play our role. Yes, you may be a peacock. Yes, you may be a cuckoo. But when the bees are chanting, be happy. Not like, oh, this is not a big kirtan singer. I can't, you know, I'm not going to go to hear this class because it's not a big person. We're going to hear Bhagavatam, right? Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Even if a new person is there, it's okay. Want to hear what is their realization of Krishna consciousness. I went to Govardhan every year, and Gopi Paranananda Prabhu, who finished translating the Bhagavatam, he had a Sanskrit school in Govardhan. And every year he invited me to give class there because he said, my students shouldn't just become scholars, they should become preachers. So I want them to hear from somebody who is preaching around the world about the Bhagavatam. And he knew that I know less about, you know, Sanskrit and technical knowledge. But he wanted me to speak. And he sat on the floor and had me sit on the Vyasasana and speak Bhagavatam in front of Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu. Imagine. One time I was in Moscow on Brahmotsava, the appearance day of the deities in Yurlava. And we met there and he asked what I'm doing. I asked him, what are you doing? What are you working on? And he said, you have a pen drive? I said, yeah, I have a pen drive. I gave him a pen drive. And he copied all the books that he was working on, unedited, unfinished. And he handed me that pen drive. He didn't say, this is only for you or this is confidential, don't share with anybody. Why? Because he had this mood that we're on the same team. We're all doing this together to glorify Krishna. So whatever I have, you have to have. Because we're on the same team. Your success is my success. Your pain is my pain. Are we feeling like that? Are we seeing it like that? Or do we see in terms of us and them and the others and the foreigners and the guests? And no, one team. One team. That's why this team score is much more powerful rather than individual score. Because I'm interested, what is Denmark doing? I'm not so much interested who did which book or which set or what, you know. Like, how did the country do? How did the yatra do? That's really what's interesting. So we can learn from the bees. Thank you for your kind attention. Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Nitai Gaur Pramanandi Hori Hori Bo.